Hello, and thanks for joining me. Well, it's going to be kind of an unusual episode, kind of a departure from the usual machine work. I've got to replace this window here. And I've got Andersen windows. The house was built in 1980, so the windows are 45 years or 45 years old, and they've done really well. And I could have got by a little cheaper and bought some replacement windows, but Andersen makes a conversion kit for the tilt-in windows, and I've got a couple of sashes here that have seen better days. Had some hail damage actually. But anyway, we're going to upgrade this so it's got a tilt-in window. It's a second-story window and it's hard to wash. And I'll put the model numbers and everything down in the description. Hopefully this will help somebody when they're swapping out the windows. It's kind of risky today. They're calling for thunderstorms and the clouds look kind of rough. Hopefully it won't be too bad. I got an overhang here so the rain won't get in, but let me show you what we got here. We've got a wood frame window here. It's vinyl clad on the outside, wood on the inside. You can see it actually coming apart right there. What happened? The hail damaged the trim outside and water got in there. A good windows otherwise, held up really well. But we're going to take these sash out and hopefully the weather will cooperate. It's about 85 degrees out. Run my air conditioning bill up. First thing we got to do is pull this vinyl off right here. Okay, first thing I got to do is remove these sashes, and to do that, put them both in the upright position, and then remove these screws here. Near as I can tell anyway. The screw's right up here. Fortunately, we don't have to reuse that. Instructions say to just slide it out this way and then cut that cord. No turning back. So, one sash out. Now I need to remove all the two side sashes and clean up. No screws holding this. That was fairly hard to get out. I guess we've been in there for so many years, 45 years. Now I've got to take a putty knife and clean up all the debris. Okay, right up here it says to trim that back 1/4 inch. They call it the header jamb. It shows a picture of it. Said they do it with a utility knife. I've lost my utility knife though. There we go. Well, it's pouring down rain outside, but no wind, so we're okay. It says to go halfway down and between, there's two curves right here that have to stay intact, but right here I'm supposed to put a screw 2.5 inches long. These are just pilot holes. And that's supposed to pull that jamb out just a little bit. It doesn't say how much, which is kind of annoying. The instructions are decent. They're not what I would call great, but they're decent. Said to use 2.5 inch screws. I did not see any movement. Hopefully that's not a bad sign. Maybe they're just trying to make sure there's no warpage to make things bind. That one moved in a little bit. Okay. I skipped a step. Well, I skipped telling you about it. I was supposed to. Now my house is 2x6 construction. If you got 2x4 construction, you don't have this piece of trim right here. This is a piece of oak trim that I put in. So it says to run a putty knife between this and the drywall, which in my case is the oak trim. And if you've got nails in there, you need to shear those nails, like where the drywall was in. But there has to be a very slight gap between the drywall or your trim, depending if you have a 2x6 house. Fortunately, when I put this oak trim up, I did not nail to the window. So everything should go smooth. But before you put those screws in, you got to shear those nails so that the side will pull in. Now I've got to put silicone in right here. And why it requires silicone now and it didn't originally, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to do it. Okay, here's where it gets a little bit confusing, and hopefully it will become clearer as we go. But this jamb has a liner and it comes apart right here. Like that. And this is what we install first. And on the back side there's two little ridges and a flange here. Now that flange goes between what would be the drywall or my trim. It just goes in about 1/4 inch. And then these two little ridges hold it in place, or that's the theory, hold this in place on the wood. It's kind of hard to see because I can't get the camera in there, but there's a saw kerf right there and right there. So we got to install the jamb into that. The jamb liner. And this is what kind of worried me, because if this didn't fit, I'd have to put everything back together. But it looks like it's fitting. And it says to start at the top and make sure it goes into those grooves. It has to be seated in those grooves or the window won't go up and down. They stress that. It says to tap that in place. believe that's it. There's also a rubber flange here that I wish sealed a little better, but it's maybe when I get the sash in, kind of hard to see. It's probably important. I need to take the camera off the tripod and show you. Right here is the rubber seal, and it has, they say be careful that it doesn't end up on the inside of this. It needs to be on the outside. Okay, now this goes in. Okay, it says to start at the top. Place interior edge of jamb liner. Yep, start at the top and work your way down. How are you supposed to get it in there? Need a little screwdriver to start it, but after that it goes in pretty easy. Oh yeah. That side's done. Now we'll do the other side. Okay, right here on the side of the jamb, there's what they call sash balancers. In other words, they're spring-loaded to help you lift the window. It says to move them to 12 inches above the sill. So I just put that piece of tape there. I got a feeling they're spring-loaded fairly strong. It says to use a screwdriver and turn them to release them. Which way do you turn it? 90 degrees either direction. Okay, the instructions say to rotate them 90 degrees to move them, but they're unlocked where they're at. In other words, they were in the top position. So you locate them 90 degrees to lock them into position. They were already unlocked. I assumed they were locked, but anyway, it said rotate them 90 degrees to move them, and I did, and that actually locked them. So we're ready for the next step. Okay, right here's the, what do they call them? Balancer shoes. And that's what I use the screwdriver to turn right there. It's U-shaped in the up position. With the U facing up, it's locked. And we're going to drop the window in, it'll click in. We're going to start out with the outside sash. Here's the sash. This is the outside with the flush. The inside has what you would think of as normal window glazing, but it's just a bevel right there. But, on the new windows, they're just flat out there, which is nice. And I'm going to peel off this film so I don't have to do it later. Okay, there was one step I neglected to do. Let's remove this tape here. It said to, before installing the windows, spray some silicone lubricant on a rag and wipe these down. Something kind of strange, the instructions don't say anything about this. It's like a sliding I don't know what it is. I'm moving it to the top. It's not in the instructions. I don't have any idea what that is. Okay. That's it. Huh. That's pretty wild the way that works. The sash compress and the window just fits in there. Now the lower one. Still don't know what those other brackets are for. There we go. That's strange. The upper sash is not seated on the upper jamb. Wonder why. Hard to get pressure on it. It looks like the upper jamb's a little warped in the center. Huh. Lined up on the ends, but not in the center. Yeah, that's kind of strange. Everything lines up on the ends, but it's like my upper sash is a little further, or upper liner is too far out. Perfect on the ends. Got some sheet metal pliers I made for bending sheet metal. Huh. Well, that's not right. That screw right there was loose and it's stripped out, and that's the only reason it's latching. I think the window's going all the way to the top. Well, I discovered something in the package, and it's nowhere in the instructions. It's a couple of shims. If you put this shim on, it will make it easier to latch if the window's not going down far enough. You put this one in, it's the opposite way. Makes it latch a little tighter. So I'm going to put that in. Well, the window seems to be sealing good, so I'll probably end up making a shim, an additional shim that goes underneath this latch. I don't feel like I should have to do that, but that's the way it is. These little pieces right here that I didn't know what they did, there's a little tiny diagram on the very front page. They're assistants to, they're like a wedge that pushes the sash or the side panels in so you can pull this out. And then you're supposed to be able to pull this down. Like that. Not the easiest. but doable. Anyway. Okay, I put a shim underneath this latch and it's working good. I think the opening for this window was always messed up. It never sealed real good, little bugs had come through. And this one seems to be sealing excellent. We'll see. In other words, there wasn't enough, or there was too much overlap here, so that the windows needed to go further apart to seal good. But I think this is going to do okay. There was a problem with the original installation, I think. I like it. Looks good. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Be sure and subscribe. Ring that bell.